Think you need to pay to perform well in the fishing tournament? Well, think again. Fishing might feel like an out-of-place event in a game like Kingshot, but don't be fooled. If you learn how to play this minigame well, then you can get all sorts of prizes, like gems, orange shards, equipment, experience, governor gear, charm materials, speed-ups, and more. So it's worth taking seriously to further accelerate your tempo in Kingshot. So I'm going to walk you through all the secrets that Kingshot master anglers know to pull up the most treasure from the depths and swallow the competition in the fishing tournament. But before we dive into the fishing minigame itself, the first secret is all about understanding the importance of your very first cast. You see, most players just dive in and do a regular cast right off the bat since they are so excited to start getting rewards, but this is actually a limiting move. Before that first cast, we need to consider two things. First, if you're planning to spend on this event at all, the sooner you do it the better. This is because spending in this event gives you a points multiplier for all subsequent fishing attempts. So if you decide to do it partway through the tournament, then it will actually have less value. And of course, the decision of whether or not to spend on this game is a deeply personal one. I personally have not spent on the fishing tournament since I don't really spend to compete on these types of games in general. However, this is objectively good value compared to other purchasable packs given the number of rare or expensive items that come along with it. But now the second consideration before casting your first line is even more important, and it's that you only get a finite amount of regular cast attempts. And every time the fishing event comes around, your equipment is set back to level 1, and you need to upgrade it with points from your catches. So you might think that you're forced to just do some low point rounds before your equipment is re-upgraded, but this need not be the case. If you make sure to check your in-game mail and all the chests in the various panels of the events before that first cast, you will get an Ocean Prospector map and some other special items to assist you on this first attempt. When you use the Ocean Prospector map, you have an extremely high spawn rate of high point fish and other things, and your gear is temporarily all at level 10 for this cast. This means a successful fishing attempt here will give you way more points to quickly build up your hook, line, and sinker so that each subsequent regular fishing attempt yields even more points than it otherwise would have provided. Now knowing all of this, it's safe to finally make our first fishing attempt with the Ocean Prospector. And while we're casting, let me briefly explain how this skill part of the minigame actually works. You control the side-to-side movement of the lure as it descends while trying to avoid hitting any fish or other obstacles. If you hit too many fish, you will catch the fish that you hit last, and the lure will reverse direction, allowing you to catch all of the fish above you. And by the way, this is way easier to do when you're using a finger on your phone screen as opposed to a mouse on an emulator that can easily go off screen. The reason you want to avoid hitting any fish, though, is because typically the rarer and thus higher point fish, as well as other treasures, are all found deeper in the water. And if you avoid enough fish successfully, you'll eventually hit the maximum depth of your equipment in reverse direction anyway, but in this case, you will know everything that happens above you and be able to catch the best fish. So in order to avoid fish the easiest on the descent, I recommend secret number 2, which is keeping your lure near the edge of the screen. If you try for the middle, you have fish coming in both directions, and thus double the chance of hitting your lure versus only having to worry about one direction if you're on the side of the screen. And if it gets too busy, then just jump to the other side of the screen. Occasionally you may get trapped and just have to take a single hit, but this happens infrequently enough that it shouldn't be a major problem. Either way, having fewer fish come at your lure gives you more time to take note of the fish and chests that you pass so you can remember to grab them on the way up. So try to keep a rough idea of the approximate depth at which you encounter valuable things so you're prepared for the return journey. And when you finally do get to the bottom and turn around, it's time for secret number 3, which is learn your fish point totals. This first attempt with the Ocean Prospector and Ocean Scanner equipped shows us the most rare fish and has everything highlighted above 3 stars. But regular attempts are not so abundant. On a regular attempt, you will see mostly 1 or 2 star fish and a handful of 3-star fish, and a single 4-star fish. There is also a chance for another 4 or 5-star fish to spawn as well, but most of your catch will be 2-star fish. So learn which ones are the 2-star ones so you can grab them and avoid the 1-star fish. You don't need to learn all of them, just a few. For example, when I do a regular catch, I know that these bluefish, oysters, and the small sharks are all 2-star fish in deep water, while these big yellow ones are 1-star despite being deep, so I adjust my catch accordingly. This can nearly double your points in a single catch if you get this right. And one other thing to note is the differences in the mermaids. You might think they are all worth a lot of points, but they're actually not. Most frequently, the mermaids you encounter are not really anything more than the equivalent of 2-point fish, and occasionally 3 points. However, if you pay close attention, you will rarely see that there are some mermaids wrapped in seaweed with a distressed look on their face. In addition to their own catch points, they will also give you a small multiplier to your point total for rescuing them. So when I saw this blue mermaid on the way down, I noticed it didn't have any seaweed, and based on the color, I knew it was worth only 2 points. So I knew to actually avoid it on the way back up, since the Ocean Prospector gave me many more 3-star fish to choose from. It's also important not to sleep on the treasure chests. They give good point totals, but they also give you items in the rest of the game which can be even more valuable than any points from the fish. And even as a free-to-play player, you can rack up quite a lot of these valuable items to further push your king shot progression. So always try to grab those whenever you see them. And in the case of this attempt, I just tried my best to avoid the 1- and 2-star fish and grab as many high point fish in chests as possible. Now, secret number 4 appears after I finish the catch. See, I knew it was a great round due to the 840 points I started off with. However, I also got that free fishing voucher in the mail because I checked before I started my first cast. And now is actually the perfect time to use it to multiply our score by an additional 1.5 times, because again, we're trying to maximize our points before using the regular attempts so we can get better gear for them. Now when I do decide to upgrade, I always upgrade the hook and line before the sinker, since that allows me to catch more fish and get to greater depths where the rarer fish may potentially spawn. And both of these things help me maximize points, while the sinker just makes it easier to reach the bottom without getting hit. And this is less relevant, as you will see in a moment. However, there is also a secondary reason that we use that fishing voucher. You see, that multiple on an already high score also gave us points to make progress in the Fishing Guild panel. And in particular, it gave us enough points to get a second Ocean Prospector map for free. So let's go use another one and do it all over again. And now's a great time to tell you about secret number 5. What happens if you get a little tripped up hitting some fish before you reach the bottom? Or what if you miss that rare fish on the way up? Or get too many low point fish? If any of these things happen to you, don't worry. You can always restart your attempt. That's right, you can start over without any penalty. And most players don't know this. Back in the old days, we used to have to force close the app and it would preserve the attempt. But now we can do the much more civilized thing of simply hitting that pause button in the top right and selecting retreat. This will take you back to the fishing tournament menu, and you'll be able to restart your run for free without using any of the consumables that it costs you to do the run. And when you re-enter, it will preserve the exact same rare fish that had spawned before, the same treasure chest, and even the same rare artifacts that spawned. I noticed this last one was the case when I just missed the only artifact I was missing for 3 seasons to finally get that frame. Oddly enough, the only thing that changes is the mermaid that spawns. I've never seen it go from a 2-star mermaid to a 3-star one, or from a mermaid without seaweed to a mermaid with seaweed, but just something to be careful of when you restart it if it's a mermaid that you need to complete your guide. So let's fast forward a bit and talk about secret number 6. Look, if you paid for a fishing pass, between the Ocean Prospector maps and vouchers, you should be easily able to max out your gear before doing your first normal fishing attempt. But if you're a free-to-play player, you will still come up a little bit short. So we're going to ration our fishing attempts until we get a 3rd Ocean Prospector at the 0 UTC server refresh. You can recover a free fishing attempt every 3 hours and can hold up to a maximum of 10. So what you want to do as a free-to-play player is start using your free attempts to get as many points as you can, even though your gear is not maxed out. But importantly, you then want to stop once you have enough capacity for extra attempts to end the first day with 10 out of 10 attempts left. Here you can see that there are about 5 hours left to the day, and that is exactly how long it will take me to get back to 10 attempts. Yes, technically I will stop recovering attempts at 0 UTC when I'm full up, but the very last attempt recharges the second the event ends, and you can never use it anyway. So this means you essentially have a 3-hour grace period after the server refresh to use that 10th attempt and restart the replenishment counter before you actually end up losing any of your attempts overall in the event. So now our new day rolls in, and we get that free Ocean Prospector map again. This allows us once again to do a max equipment fishing attempt and try to complete the rest of our gear. And here we get pretty close to maxing out everything that'll give us points. So now we can use those regular attempts. And the first one gives me 430 more points to put towards gear, and now you can see my recovery time is starting again. And it's only offset by about the 10 minutes that we delayed, so we haven't really wasted any attempts here. Now as we go through these remaining regular fishing attempts, let's talk a bit about these special items. There are 3 of them, and many folks don't realize you don't need to buy them with cash. If you simply click on the item pictures, you can actually acquire them for 300 gems each. Now, first we have the reel, which gives you 2 more times to hit a fish before you reverse direction and start catching fish. You can get by without it, since you now know how to restart, but if you find yourself having to restart often or getting frustrated, might not be a bad idea. Next we have the Ocean Scanner. This will point you to where the rare fish are so you can prepare better. However, once you know the fish well and get comfortable mentally noting everything on the way down, you could possibly forego this tool. However, it can still be helpful if you're trying to complete your fishing fishing guide. And finally, we have the Lantern. You should get this for every attempt. If not, you won't be able to see below 300 meters depth. It's not worth trying to get around this. If you forget to equip it, you're basically wasting an attempt, unless you already have the entire fishing guide completed and are just trying to get 2-star fish in the shallows for mediocre points. And once you have maxed out all of your gear, you open up some additional awards and options. Additional points you would have spent on gear can go to this discount version of the Hero Roulette wheel. To be honest, the rewards really aren't that great for the 1500 points that it requires to spin. Especially if you end up simply getting back that special item chest at the top, or 10,000 experience points. What a waste. And by the way, this is one of the reasons I don't recommend spending much money on this event beyond those 2 passes. Even the frame and skin at the top of the leaderboard are only temporary. So there's really not a reason beyond bragging rights to aim for the 50,000 or more points you sometimes see people with at the top of the charts. It's really much better to instead focus on the rewards for filling out your guide. Not only do you get all the governor gear and charm materials, shards, and more, but you also get some of the few permanent skins and frames you can get as a free-to-play player. So I make it a point to try and catch all 150 fish. Yeah, totally not a Pokédex. To help with this, you can use the Horn of the Tide item. You get 1 of them for free every fishing event, and it summons a fish of your choosing for your next attempt. Because I am most efficiently trying to get all the fish, I save it for my last attempt so I don't waste it on a fish I encounter in the very next round. I also select the 5-star fish that will take the longest to reappear. So since I'm in the spring, I'm selecting a fish that only appears in the spring and winter, since I won't see it again for 2 more fishing rotations, which is equal to 2 months in real life. Now if I had already caught all of the fish, then I would consider using it at the beginning of my fishing attempts to get additional points quicker and build up tempo with my equipment sooner. So that's one of the other strategic considerations you could do with this Horn of the Tide item. There's one other thing that unlocks after you've maxed out your gear for the season, and that's the option to power cast. This allows you to essentially complete multiple fishing attempts at once. You have to consume the same multiple of any special items you use, so there's no savings here. Basically, it lets you quickly complete all of your attempts for points if you don't care about completing your fishing guide, or if you already have everything complete. Otherwise, it's not super useful. If you were to use it, you would want to do 1 perfect attempt that gets you all 2-star and above fish, and then reset it if you don't. Then you just replicate that score against all your auto-completed remaining attempts, depending on how many you selected to power cast. So using all of these tricks that we discussed, I was able to just squeak into the top 50 on my final attempt. This is pretty good considering I'm competing against 3 kingdoms and didn't spend a dime on this event ever. Now the 50th place probably won't hold for that last hour or so, and I probably won't get the frame this time, but I hope it shows you that you can actually get a ton of rewards in this event without needing to pay anything. And if you followed all of this guide and you did get those 2 fishing passes, then you can see how easily you would get into the top ranks with 30% extra points for everything, extra voucher multiples, and extra Ocean Prospector maps. But what if you wanted to guarantee you would at least get the frame and skin once as a free-to-play player? Well, that's where secret number 7 comes in. Let me jump on over to my farm account real quick. I never really do fishing on this account since the rewards don't yield enough resources for it to be worth my time. However, just by simply logging in and collecting chests occasionally, I've been able to start accumulating a nice stockpile of Ocean Prospectors and fishing vouchers. That's right, these carry over from fishing tournament to fishing tournament if you don't use them. So as a free-to-play player, you can grab these and not use them to save them up for a single tournament. And in theory, with enough saving, this would allow you to get to the top of the leaderboards over everyone else who has spent. And that's sort of funny to me. And I'll probably save up a few more times with this farm account and do a video on that at some point just for fun. In any case, with all of these fishing secrets at your disposal, the world is your oyster. So let me know in the comments your best fishing rank as a free-to-play player and how close you are to completing your fishy decks. Also, be sure to check out the rest of the Kingshot Essentials series for more smart guides to help you get the most out of your gameplay. Thanks again for watching, and happy gaming out there.